Hello, and thanks for joining me on another episode of Zulf Talks podcast. We've got an amazing episode lined up for you today. We've got a live guest on, so you'll be enjoying some extra voices today. And we will be looking at the topic, which is your dreams. We're going to cover how to make your dreams a reality. What is stopping you from pursuing your dreams? So, the reason I've got my guest on today is, in a way, he's got a bit of financial background as well as he's pursued his dream. So it'll be an excellent place to get some knowledge from. So I'm going to introduce you to my guest and say hello to DJ. Hello, DJ. How are you doing?
Hello, I am doing well. I just have to say, this is one of the most professional podcasts I've ever been a part of. I'm already blown away. Thank you for
Oh,
having me.
that's great. Thank you for taking the time to set this up, and having you on the show is great. I've got a few little setups here that I like to do. So for everybody listening, if you're listening on the podcast, you will be hearing me. And actually, we have got a live recording going on as well. So if you do want to, in the description and show notes, you'll find some information about my guest as well as other ways to listen to this podcast. If you're on Spotify have actually released an update where you can watch the video and the audio at the same time. So you will be seeing the video here and seeing us lovely people talking to you today. But what we will do is I'll give you a little bit of an intro further to our guest, let him introduce himself and give you a bit of background. And then we've got a few topics which will actually help you. I think they'll help you because if you're pursuing your dreams, there's always that question. It's a bit risky. What do I do? Am I doing the right thing? Maybe I should just relax and watch Netflix at home and not worry about all this stuff. So there's loads of things we can do, but we have to take the initiative. And let's have a quick little update from DJ and get an idea of what he's achieved through his career briefly, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll keep it super short. So yes, born in San Antonio, born in Houston, Texas, but I claim San Antonio, Texas, because that's where I was raised. I was a total band nerd, in Texas, marching band's really big. So I was in marching band, jazz band, concert band. I got to be band president. Ooh, so had a really good time all throughout high school, and then was planning to go to a local college called Texas State. It's now called Texas State, and I applied to Stanford just as a long shot, and
Just as
I
you did,
got
yeah.
in. Yeah,
Wow.
I got in, and so you can't say no to that. So I ended up moving to California. It was my first time kind of living outside of the state, and really like only my third time ever leaving the state, I think. And so went to Stanford, graduated in 2005 with a degree in music science and technology,
Oh,
which basically means I was training to be an audio engineer, which is already kind of an unusual path to take at Stanford. Yeah.
yeah.
Not there was a small group of us. Most people there were like training to be doctors and
Yeah.
computer science majors. But even from that age, I was big on pursuing the things that I love. And I was fortunate to have parents who were like, "Yeah, you can do that. You're probably going to be broke when you come out. Just know that. But if you want to go and do music, sure, fine." I moved to LA. Oh, it seems like you have a question. Go for it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
stop there, and
I was
we'll
thinking,
just go
so
ahead.
was that planned, or is that something that you think that you wouldn't have done normally? So the audio engineering part, is that something you thought about, or is that just something you thought you're going to do?
That is something I thought about senior year of high school when I got a computer that had recording capabilities, and I started bringing my friends over from band, and we were making songs, and I just got lost in editing, and had so much fun with that. And then at some point, I realized you can actually do this as a career. So that's what I was going to go to Texas State for, was to go get this audio engineering degree, and so that was my plan. And then when I went to Stanford, I actually briefly switched to electrical engineering because I was like, okay, well, this is one of the top schools for engineering. I should do something like that. And I was also interested in electrical engineering, computer engineering. I didn't really know what that meant, but I knew that I liked computers, I liked electronics and science, and I knew they made good money. So I was like, okay, this would be a cool thing to pursue. Well, anyway, I took one class, not a whole series of classes. I took one class called Intro to Electronics. It was like 101. The I went one session. In that session, the professor covered everything I had gone through in like high school physics. He covered that in 30 minutes. So it was like a complete recap. And then the last 20 minutes of the class was stuff I had never even heard of. And I was like, oh, I am way out of my league here. And I changed my major right after that class to music science and technology. Yeah. I was like, going back to the thing I know.
That sounds nice. I think that's a nice little overview of yourself. I want to get into the main gist of it now. So,
Hmm.
motivation, pursuing your dreams, the risk side of it. What would you say is the biggest risk of you pursuing your dream so far? Is there something you can look back and think, you know what, if that didn't go well, I could have ended up not in a good place?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, first of all, that didn't go well. So I
Okay.
got it. I moved to LA to go be an audio engineer and left broke and broke in. LA is a wild place. If you're naive and just not ready for the personalities there, it's easy to get taken advantage of, and that happened to this kid from Texas, right, who's just very trusting. So it didn't go well, but I tried, and the risk was so to me, the way I look at risk is when I'm 80 years old and I look back on my life, am I going to am I going to think about the things I wish I had done? Or am I going to have some stories about the things that I tried? And very early on, I kind of realized that stories are a great currency. You don't have to be the richest person in the room. Often, in fact, almost never am I the richest person in the room. I still don't make a lot of money to this day, but I've on several occasions been called like the most interesting person in the room, which is seems to work just as well. And so, yeah, I kind of like live my life to just go for whatever the interesting story is within reason. You know what I mean? But in it, yeah, go ahead.
So, I'm assuming in this sort
Hmm.
of role, perception of richness is something else. Because if I saw you and we had a conversation somewhere, if you had a lot of knowledge, I would assume, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's got a good career. He's doing well. But
Hmm.
sometimes, just because someone looks rich, they may not be rich. So even richest people in the room, that's like kind of a bit of a tricky subject because it's the ones that act rich are
Ah.
actually financed out of hell and none of the money's actually theirs. The people that look poor are the ones that are rich because they're making good use of the money they've got. They're budgeting well. So that works out
Hmm.
quite nicely and it's like kind of a switch of perceptions. But I think I get what you mean. You're right. It's sometimes a good option to have just you can at least give something else because riches, someone can't really tell you how they made their money. Everybody that gets rich has got rich because something has gone well for them. They've had a good
Hmm.
break, they've met someone who's done well for them, and it's very rare that someone's just become rich because they've pursued their dreams since young birth and had a goal in mind. We all end up doing
Hmm.
something different than what we wanted to do, but I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are doing what they wanted to do when they were young, and those are some amazing people as well. So it's
It's
always nice.
few and far between, I would say, people
Mm.
who are like, oh, yeah, I wanted to be a fireman when I grow up,
Yeah.
and then they grew up to be a fireman. I mean, usually when that happens, it's because someone in your family is that thing
Mm.
and they just kind of carry you through, and keeping you inspired and motivated. Most of us, and this is something I wanted to say about like failure, there is no failure, in my opinion. I mean, unless you're doing something that you don't want to be doing, like someone talked you into like jumping off a bridge, right? And you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but even then there's still a lesson to learn. The way to the way to find your passion, because I think people take, it's easy to say pursue your passion, but there's this whole process you have to go through before you even figure out what you're passionate about. And it's all about trying things as fast as possible, trying lots of things, seeing if they work for you, seeing if you like it, and then if it doesn't work, you don't like it, move on to the next thing. You want to run as many experiments as possible at a young age when you have very little responsibility outside of yourself, because once you have a family and things like that, it's not about you anymore, all about you. So,
Okay, that's interesting. Trying lots of things, and if you fail, moving on. That's a good, um, I'll say way, not way, good mentality to have. But however, if you're setting that up, so for example, I've got loads of, I've spoke to people sometimes on Reddit online. You'll see loads of
mhm,
people with amazing ideas, but they'll pursue them. But then the finance side of it won't tally up with that. So if they want to do five great ideas and they end up opening a waffle stand, an ice cream shop, doing a extra, I don't know, photography course, doing a finance
mhm.
course, want to become a coach, they spend lots of money on training. But at the end of it, they're moving on when they're actually lighter in the pocket now, so they don't have as much money as they started with. Is that a good way to do it, or is there an alternative where they can focus down on one thing and then maybe spend more on that and get somewhere where at least they've got a backup follow-up plan and then pursue their dreams? But there's different ways of thinking of it. But what do you feel about
Mm.
that?
Well, first, let's redefine failure.
Hmm.
right? In the sense of like, if you try something and it doesn't work for you, what I really mean by that is like you don't like it as much as you thought you did.
Okay. Yes.
Or
Yes.
yeah, if you don't like it and you're like, this doesn't capture my attention or help me get in the zone. You know how people, when you find something you love, you can just spend hours doing it. If that's not it for you, then move on quickly. In terms of financial failure, that happens all the time, and you do want to hedge your bets. So what do I mean by that? You don't want to, if you have, let's say you have $20,000 to spend. Do you want to go spend all of it on idea one? No, you want to learn as much as possible for as cheaply as possible. And when I say learn, I don't just mean like take courses. I mean learn about whether you like this or not. Like whatever's going to help you learn fast, do that. Sometimes actually courses help you learn slow. So yes, you think you're learning, but what you're actually doing is you're spending time in class, and a lot of us probably feel comfortable learning, in that way. The real way to be learning is to be doing it. So to give you an example, me as a financial coach, like I've read a lot of books. I read the books because I loved the books, right? No one had to make me read anything. You'd have to pull it out of my hand. And then instead of getting a financial coaching degree and doing all that stuff, I just got Calendly, and then said, here's my Calendly. If you want to book some time with me, go ahead. And people started booking time, and it didn't detract from my energy. It energized me to be on calls with people and helping them. And I still don't have a financial coaching degree, but I've had over like 100 sessions at this point, and so I know I like it. And now, if I want to go spend some money on it, I know it's money well spent, because this is something I love. So that's kind of how I would do it. Learn for as much as you can about yourself for as cheaply as possible, and usually that just means like go try to start doing the thing.
Okay, that's nice. I like that overview and that idea of things. I think that helps explain it a lot better and also give a point of reference to how that could work. So, if I was to give you a question along the lines of right now you've got $100 million, you can go and
Hmm.
do whatever you want to do. What
Hmm.
would you do with that from your personal experience, from where you've come from, what you work like? And that might give some of our listeners maybe a push, maybe a motivation that you may not have $100 million, but you might have $1,000. What should you maybe do
Yeah.
with that? Is there like something that you can bring to the table for that?
Oh, yeah. Well, so there's an expression that says like money just makes you more of who you already are. So if you're a jerk and you get a bunch of money, you're just more of a jerk. They can also work in a positive way too. If you gave me $100 million, I would do exactly what I'm doing now, just to a greater degree. And if that's your answer, if you can answer that way, that means you're on the right track. If someone was going to give you all the money in the world, you'd say, yeah, I just put it into the thing that I'm doing now. So in my case, I'd keep building this business. I'd keep bringing on amazing team members, and keep trying to help people through creating solutions for them, in terms of finance and all that stuff. And we can get into what we're actually building later. But if you gave me $100 million, that's what I do. Now, it's, in my opinion, the money matters a lot less than the people that you are around. So let's flip it. Let's say I was a billionaire and you took away all my money. What would I do to get it back? I wouldn't I don't know. I wouldn't try to like play the lottery and like focus on earning. How do I get this billion? I would go find people that could help me and talk to those people. It's all about just surrounding yourself with the right team, the right mentors, the right um, people with the right mentality. That's how you get where you want to go.
That's very nice. You may have heard me typing during your speaking there, and that was because right now we are live on Reddit at the same time. We've got about 203 people who are currently listening and watching us. And something you said was very nice. So I put that in the chat in Reddit. Money
Mm,
matters less than the people. And that's
mm,
something that makes you think. Because just from what you've said right now, if no matter how much money I had in the world, I'm not doing too badly. I would have still been sitting here talking to you, live streaming to Reddit, and maybe put a bit of money
yes,
towards Reddit and invest in them to make them do even better for the live streaming
yes,
performance, all these things. So you're right. You just rebalance the money you've got to help you with your current journey. So I think based on your details there, I'm not doing too badly. We're both on the same journey. We're doing what we like, which is good. And I'm hoping a lot of people listening to this will also get a bit of motivation. There's a few more points to cover, and then I'm going to touch on some of your projects and some of the things you're working on at the moment as well. So if you were to look at habits that drive success, what are some habits that drive you towards your goals?
Oh, well, number one, I think is pursuing something that you're passionate about. There's a lot of challenges that come along. Well, I'll put it to you this way. I've heard it said that happiness is not the absence of problems. A lot of people think in order to be happy, I just need all my problems to go away. But the way that humans work, if you had no problems, your brain would just look for problems, and you would immediately like make more problems for yourself. So happiness is said to be more so solving problems that you want to be solving. A happy human is a human that's solving problems, but they're solving the problems they want to be solving. So if you hate accounting, you don't want to be solving accounting problems. But if you love accounting, you want to be solving accounting problems. So the thing is like find the thing that you're passionate about. Find the thing that makes you want to solve problems in that area all day long. So that's number one. Pursue something you're passionate about because you can go further, you can go longer. It's just easier to get work done when you like what you're doing. So that's number one. Um, should I keep going?
We've got a few
No,
more
go ahead.
points.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
go for it. Go for
so
it.
touching on that, you mentioned there's a few ways of looking at it. So, for example, I think there's a song I was listening to recently, and it was in another language. But then I looked at the translation of the song, and one of the lines in there is, "I've reached the sky, I've touched the clouds. What do I do now?" So it's like,
Mm,
okay, so you can go as high as you want to go. What happens
mm,
now? So that's like a good place to think, and maybe it's more philosophical, probably. But there's loads
mhm.
of little things where people think around those. So if you're listening to this, you've always got somewhere to go. Push yourself, achieve what you want to achieve based on what you've done so far. Whatever you find interesting right now, that's something you want to invest a bit of time in. Because if you're finding it interesting, you could do it for a living. It won't feel like a job. Now,
Yeah.
DJ,
Wait,
yes,
before
go
you
on.
go to that,
Yep.
before you got that next one, you said something really great. I got it. If you reach the point where you've achieved success and you're like, what do I do now? Oh, it's a very simple answer. You help other people do it.
Yes.
That's that's
There
it.
you
Turn
go.
around and help somebody else do it.
There you go. You made the quote even better by adding that on now.
Hey.
Okay. So going back to your journey, do you recall any major points where you've had like a life-changing moment where you're like, okay, I'm pursuing this path, and then you've had a good versus bad. So I know you mentioned where it didn't go as well. So have you got one where it has gone well and where you are now as a result of where you've come from?
Oh yeah. A lot of things haven't gone well, but some things have gone well. And both of them, I don't really look at either one of them as being ultimately good or bad, right? It's like everything teaches you something. So even if something goes badly, it can be a good thing. Something that went well that was a pivotal moment was I got hired to Southwest Airlines as a flight attendant. So that was something I'd wanted to do because when I went to college, I met people from all over the world, and I was like, I'm from Texas, and I had gone to California, and this was like my small little taste of what was out there. And then I met people from everywhere, and I was like, how do I see these places? I knew I wasn't going to go get a corporate job, and I was like, there's two ways to travel a lot. It's make a lot of money, and then you can afford travel the traditional way, or you can hack the system. And I'm such a hacker. And I said, well, what if I work in the travel industry? And I just so happened to have an aunt who worked at Southwest. She still works there, works at Southwest Airlines. And she was like, yeah, why don't you be a flight attendant? I was like, I hadn't thought about that. So yeah, that's something that went well, and changed my life for sure. Another thing that, well, hey, I'll stop there. But another thing that went well, I'll tell you
Go
in
on,
a
go on, go
second.
on. You
But
gotta
yeah,
tell us that. You gotta tell us another thing. Go on.
another thing that went really well, I always like to mention my good friend MC Lars. We met in college, and he was just this weird guy that came up to me and basically asked if I wanted to be in a band because my name was DJ, and he thought I was a DJ, but I'm not a DJ. But I was like, I love music, and I say weird guy in like the sweetest way. He's such an awesome dude, and he I said yes to this thing. This is something I wanted to say to everybody. Like sometimes just say yes, not to everything, but if it seems interesting, like, just see what happens. Because again, you're running experiments, you're seeing what you like. I said yes, joined the band. Like 2 weeks later, we played our first show, and then I ended up going all around the world with him. Like he took me to Japan, he's taken me to the UK multiple times, all over Europe. And I don't travel anymore with him. Like he's still my very good friend, but I'm introverted and I'm a homebody, and I just like can't bear to get on planes that much. Touring is hard. If anybody's out there who's a musician and who tours, you know it's hard. And so hats off to Lars for doing it. But yeah, that was a great pivotal moment for sure.
I think the next time, hopefully, you start traveling and you're here in the UK, make sure to drop by. It'll be a good place to meet you and hopefully
Yeah.
chat. So I am in the UK here. Also,
I want a kebab like so bad.
yes,
I miss the
food.
UK kebabs.
Great food. Out of all the countries you've gone to, which one did you enjoy the most?
Well, I hate to admit this because they were also the rudest people. Oh my God, France was incredible. It was so beautiful. Like Marseille, France was probably like the most beautiful place I've ever been, like the south of France. Wow. I just remember walking around with Lars and I think we were on tour. Yeah, we were on tour with Zebrahead, a band called Zebrahead, and we were just walking around the streets of Marseille, and it was so much fun. It was right on the ocean, and like, oh, so. But they definitely made fun of me for ordering French fries because I did get French fries, and
All
they were like,
right.
yeah,
And touching back on something you mentioned a little bit earlier as well about the introvert side of things. So that happens quite a bit. Where you're passionate about a subject, you won't appear introverted. But then when you're in a group of people and you're not like in your own familiar circumstances, it can change. It's very similar for me as well. So I can talk very nicely and openly in front of a camera, like we're doing right now. It's perfectly fine. But if in a group of people, I'll probably pick and choose what I want to talk about. And I'm more of a home dweller, like you mentioned. I'm coming from the
yeah.
financial sector myself, so over a decade as a data analyst. So that's like the background side of things for me, which is
What?
more an introvert type of person because you're basically updating accounts, writing code,
Yeah,
writing reports, databases. But yeah, I think that when you said that, that reminded me of me when I was kind of similar kind of situation.
100%. Same with me. Hate small talk. Love talking about
Yeah,
things I'm
that's it.
passionate
Like
about.
straight to the point, or something we both love,
Yeah,
and then you're fine. So,
yeah.
what's your biggest motivation, do you think, that drives you? Because you've got a great attitude, and the way you perceived is like very good. So, what motivates you yourself?
For me, I feel like I'm on a mission. Like I feel like this is my purpose in life, and that really helps a lot when things are not going right because it helps you pick yourself up and keep going because you feel me personally because I'm pursuing my passion because I believe this is my purpose is to like help people. I just believe things are going to work out whether they look dark one day or not. I just believe that if I keep going, it'll work out, and if it doesn't work out, I'm okay with that too because something else better will come along. I don't know. I just being an optimist really helps a lot. You don't want to be like too much of an optimist. You got to be throw a little realism in there. But as long as you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing, meaning like I'm responding to emails, I'm applying to these different, you know, accelerator programs and things like that. Um, as long as you're doing that stuff, like it's okay to be optimistic. And if it doesn't go the way you want, just hey, it wasn't meant for you. Always what I tell myself. So
That's a
yeah.
nice point, I think. What we'll do is go to a quick mid roll ad, and I'll come back to you in a second. You're listening to Zulf Talks, a podcast answering those questions we've all got in our minds, the day to day things we think about, and the challenges we face. Be sure to reach out on social media if you have any questions about the topics we're speaking about today, and let's continue with the show. Thank you for joining me back here. We're on the Zulf Talks podcast, and we're live with our guest. If you're watching live, well done, you made it to the live stream. If you're listening back on the podcast or even on the channel, you'll see the video alongside the stream. We'll be talking about motivation. I've still got DJ with me now, so we're going to go through a few more points and cover some of the projects he's working on because they sound really interesting. I think you'd like to hear about them. So, DJ, what do you think would be the best outcome for you in your current career with your goals, the work you've done? What would you like to do? Is it what you're already doing? Can you tell us a bit more about that and like what your average day would look like, for example?
Oh yeah, yeah. So what I would like to be doing is again exactly what I'm doing now. It's just I would like to make money from it, but you know that will happen. So I can't wait to talk to you all about like the risks that I'm taking and how I view that. But yeah, I have a nonprofit, so that's one thing. I have a financial education nonprofit, or I should say, financial empowerment nonprofit. And I literally just do coaching sessions with anybody who wants to show up and talk about anything that's on your mind. A lot of times people can't even form the right questions. They're just worried and they need someone to just let it all out to. And then it's so funny whenever someone just goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry for rambling," to a professional, like I would consider myself a professional at this point for sure, like no information is lost. So we take that, we assemble that into a plan, and then by the time you leave, you feel empowered because you now have a plan to follow to help you take control of your finances. But anyway, that's the AFE Society.org. If you type in the AFE Society.org, it'll take you right to my Calendly, and you could just book time with me.
What does that stand for? What does AFE stand for? Is that for like?
The advancement of financial empowerment. So, it's like it's a whatever name. I didn't. That's not a name I didn't really spend too much time on. I just wanted to do something quickly and get it up and running, and I was like, yeah, that works. So that's our name. The other thing, and so yes, if anybody out there wants to talk about finances, like you just let me know and feel free to. I don't. There's no cost to it. That's the other thing I didn't mention. I've never charged never charged anyone for this. The reason it's a nonprofit is because I'd like to apply for grants and things like that. So that I never have to charge the people who need financial help. The other thing that I'm doing, so I am a travel hacker. I already told you I love to just kind of figure out ways around the system to, get the biggest bang for your buck. I discovered travel hacking in like 2016. And travel hacking is basically using credit card points to go anywhere and everywhere you want to go. And I got really, really, really into it. And it's a way to turn your good credit into free travel. So, but step one is building your credit, right? You have to get your good credit. So here's what I noticed. Yeah, the AFE Society. Oh, you found that's
Yeah,
so
while you
funny.
were talking there, sorry, I just did a quick little research to bring that up. So tell us a bit more about this. This is basically you putting yourself out there to help people for free and not getting
Hmm.
anything in return.
Yes. Yep.
That's amazing. Do
I
you
just
accept
love helping
charitable
people.
donations or something?
We do, although I've never really gotten one, and that's doesn't bother me at all. I've been doing this for like, over almost like a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. Um, I just do it because it fulfills me. Like I get off these calls and I'm energized. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't worry about the immediate financial gain or how is this person helping me.
Mhm.
I just I believe that it all comes back to you. So if I just help people, I'll be okay.
So have you got an example of the types of people you've helped, like where you've had a coaching session with someone and like they were at the brink of like really bad stress or something,
Yeah.
or have you got any examples you can share? Because what I would like to hear is, I've got a company. I regularly yearly donate to like a homeless charity where they feed people in the street. So
Yeah.
I have a budget for that. So if I can find a place to put some of that money and you've got a charitable organization registered, I don't see why I shouldn't be donating to you.
Oh, well, that's too kind. The dollars that come in just allow me to do more of what I love because I have a day job. I have a really awesome, like, part-time job because, I don't make money from any of the things that I do yet. But I have a part-time job that pays the bills because as entrepreneurs, like, don't be too crazy. Like, it's okay to go work for someone else. Just make sure it doesn't sap all your energy. And this shop is great. I work with Street Code Academy, and we help. It's a nonprofit that helps teach kids, like teach people how to get involved in code or in technology. It just brings more diversity to technology. So not just coding, but lots of things, and that fulfills me as well. So, but yeah, the this program. Let me tell you about a transformation that's sort of happened. I think the biggest transformations I see are just the cloud of worry that hangs over people as it relates to finances. It goes away when you put a plan in place. The thing about finances that's tough is most people don't want to talk about it. There's a lot of shame around if they're not doing well with their credit score, if they don't have the savings. And so the first thing I tell people is this is a guilt-free, shame-free zone. I mean, like I've been broke. I can't even tell you how many times. But so I don't all the mistakes I've already made them. Don't feel bad about anything. I'm like a doctor. Just whatever you tell me, I'm going to use it to help you. You can tell me as much as you want, but whatever you tell me, I'm going to use it to help you. So people come in cloud of worry, don't know what to do, don't know where to start. I tell them, all right, you see this? This is your number one problem. Like, let's focus on this, or this is the number one thing to focus on, I should say. Put together a step-by-step plan. And when you simplify things for people, instead of just being like, I need to fix all this, I'm just like, hey, focus on these three things right now. The next time we'll focus on these three things. It just helps people feel empowered. And that's what we're going for.
Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds really good. Well done for that. I think definitely. And
Yeah.
you're right, going forwards, if you continue what you're doing well, people will notice and you'll get backers, you'll get people that will support you. So I don't think you need to worry about yourself because I understand you've come from a background where you've done good things, but sometimes it's not gone well. So I think you touched on homelessness for a little while as well. So there's,
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been homeless 3 times actually. I lived in I lived in the Bay Area, first of all, and everybody knows Bay Area rent is super expensive. And I just didn't. Okay, so here's my advice to people who are pursuing a dream. This is very, very important. If you can, keep your expenses super low because it allows you to take jobs that don't pay very well. But uh, I was at the time when I was living in my car, I was working minimum wage at a frozen yogurt shop. I also worked minimum wage at a pizza shop, and then I worked at another pizza shop that paid a little bit more. Um, but I was doing those things because I was trying to start a food business, which I eventually did. It was called Mr. Waffleton's. It was a waffle and ice cream shop. But I couldn't have taken a minimum wage job at a frozen yogurt place to learn how the toppings worked. If I had a $4,000 a month apartment in the Bay Area. So I just moved into my car. This is a privilege that I had too. I have to, I'm a guy, first and foremost. I don't have any kids. I don't have a family, but everybody has there's a way for you to do it. I believe if there's something you're here on earth to do, there's a way to do it. You just have to be willing to like take a risk. You have to be willing to step out there, give it a shot, believe in yourself. You're going to be fine. And I know I'm just kind of going on, but I just wanted to make sure that I get this point across. The reason I'm so okay with failure at this point is because after you fail a bunch of times, you realize you're still alive. You're like, you just bounce back. As long as you don't do wrong by people, never lie, cheat, steal, do any of that. Always do right by people, and there will be someone there to like pick you back up or offer you an opportunity. You'll be okay. It's okay to fail. Just try stuff. So anyway, wanted to make sure I got that out.
no, that definitely, I think we've got some time anyway. So if you've got anything else you'd like to share, definitely. Is there any more projects that you'd like to share with us? I'll already put the links in the description of the show notes for the AF. Well, I'll put the actual website link there. Is there anywhere else that we
So
can get information about you?
can you put the afesociety.org? If you pull
Okay.
that up, you'll see it goes right to my Calendly. And people might be like, "Oh, you're crazy for giving this out on Reddit. People are just gonna spam you with all sorts of stuff," and that'll probably happen. But like enough good people will get through that
Yeah,
it'll be
because what
worth
will
it.
happen with this will end up on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, loads of other Stitcher. There's loads of places where it will
Wow.
show up. So maybe having your calendar directly available to everybody might not be the best option.
Doesn't it
But
seem crazy to do that?
yeah,
But I always like to just, that's me. I take risks. But okay, we won't do it. I will take your word for it, but I'll just say it out loud.
I don't want, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to bombard you with loads of people just booking you out for like slots because it's great you helping people, but I think it needs to be done in a way that they get the best from it and they don't.
Mhm.
We don't want to waste you basically because you've got some
Yeah.
energy. We don't want to waste all of your energy. So it's isolated in places where it can help the most for the people that are maybe
Yeah.
struggling the most and they can get that benefit from you. Um,
Well,
yeah.
thank you
So
for that. Thank you for looking out for me. You can see I'm like super trusting and all that stuff. I just,
because I think that happens a lot. People that are good
mhm.
without thinking about themselves. I used to be like
Yeah.
that. And now I've got to a point where, like, you know what, I've done everything for everyone, but where does that leave me?
Mhm.
I think at the moment, like
Mhm.
you're saying, you're doing a lot of things that are free, but you need to think about how will you survive? How will you're working, that's
Yeah.
fine, but it needs to be like
Mhm.
some type of plan because we plan and help other people, but we never plan and
Mhm.
help ourselves. So maybe some of that needs to come your way as
Oh,
well to get
yeah.
you a bit of,
Well, wait till I tell you about the second thing I'm
go
doing.
on,
So
go on,
that
do
I
it.
have a nonprofit, but better believe I'm an entrepreneur at heart. This is why I live such a crazy life. It's
Okay.
just anybody out there who's an entrepreneur, you can't help it. You just can't work for someone else doing something boring for, years at a time, even if it pays well. You're gonna go out and try something, or you're gonna be miserable. Like one of those two things is gonna happen. So I'm always looking at problems to solve, and I love business. I love business models. Here is the for-profit company that I'm working on. Again, it all ties back to something I'm passionate about. This one is helping people build credit. Okay, so in my coaching sessions, I noticed there is a big difference between people knowing how to build credit, the education part, and the doing it part, the motivation part. So there seems to be like a little bit of a disconnect because people will know what to do, but then they'll be like, I can't do it this month. I'll get around to it later. Like, so how do you bridge that gap? How do you get people to do something that they should do? It's by linking it to something that they want to do. If you link it to something that they want to do, then you don't have to push anybody. They just do it. So something I noticed, because I would tell people about all these trips I was going on for free. People are like, how are you going on these trips? And I would be like, oh, well, yeah, I use credit card points. Well, how do you get these credit cards? Well, you got to have a good credit score. Okay, well, now I'm interested. How do I get a good credit score? Well, let me tell you. And so there is a strong connection between personal finance and travel. Like you can, if you link it to travel, you can get people to do good personal finance, make good personal finance decisions if you show them that they'll be able to travel as a result of that. So VacayHQ. VacayHQ.com is what we're building now. I'll give it to you at a very high level what it is. At the simplest form, it's a credit card recommendation tool. So if you've ever used Credit Karma before.
How are you spelling that? Vacay? Spell
Oh,
that?
yes. VACAY HQ.com.
Yeah, because I think when you're listening, it's easy to mishear. So I've got the site up now. So if you're listening, that's the site. Hopefully that helps you. You can definitely keep that, and I'll put in the show notes. For those watching right now, you can see on screen the actual site itself. So VKHQ, very nicely made site, I have to say. It looks very professional.
Oh, thank you. I did not make it myself, and I'll get to that point in a second too about having people help you out. So the idea is we help you boost your credit and your travel rewards, right? So phase one is improving your credit. So we have a tool. We're partnering with Equifax. Oh gosh, Equifax has been amazing. They're one of the top three, credit bureaus.
I used to use them when Equifax and Experian. We used to use them when I was working in the finance
Yes.
sector, getting checks on customers before giving them finance. So
Oh
yes.
my gosh. So if you want to pull somebody's credit report, you have to work with one of the three credit bureaus. And Equifax is they have an accelerator program that they launched last year. And this is year two. We got accepted into the accelerator program for year two, which means we get access to like all these great APIs and things that are going to help people build their credit. So phase one, you pull your credit report, we show you your credit score, and we show you areas to improve, and then we tell you how to do it. That's getting you ready to start applying for these travel credit cards, which you have to have, like a 680 or better credit score to get. Then once you're able to do that, the hardest part of travel hacking is like deciding which cards to get. In America, you probably actually don't know this because you're in the UK, or maybe you do. In America, hundreds of credit cards. This is something that's really possible in America, not so much other places. Go ahead. What are you thinking?
Yeah, we've got similar things. So, for example, the company I worked for, we were intermediary. So we were actually the finance background for anybody who wanted to make a card. So you could turn around and have a different store wanted to create a credit card. Okay, yeah, we'll put your brand on it, but it's actually our credit card, our customer service, but people will think it's your card. That's basically what we
And
used to do.
and you did data analysis
Yeah.
for this
So you're
company?
basically reporting and balance transfers, transferring credit cards to different accounts, cash advances if they needed
Wow.
money. It's not the best way to get money if you want to get it because it gets a lot of high interest rates. But
Right.
like you mentioned, we used to do Marriott as well, which is like a big hotel brand. So they
Yeah.
offer points for travel. So I know you're going
Yeah.
around that area as well where you've mentioned that. So having those, and if you're creating cards and transfer points and different ways of earning points to get free flights, which is probably your domain, but I'll let you speak more about that.
Oh, wow. That's so. We'll have. Did you enjoy that, or you don't enjoy data analysis? Because I
No,
was like,
it was a
hmm,
mixture of the two. So I started off probably 14, 15 years ago in the call center, worked my way up
hmm,
to different roles, did a bit of recruitment for the company, administration, planning and MI, basically doing all the rotas for all the staff that worked in the call center, looking at different
yeah.
bits and bobs there. And then I moved to data analytics, a very boring job. It's a very office
It
boring
was
job.
boring.
It's interesting, but for an introvert, it's amazing because you basically get on with it and you're doing some work that makes a change, it makes the company money, but ultimately
Yeah.
you can't do it for the rest of your life. If you want a bit of excitement, you'll do what we're doing. talking to people,
Yeah.
enjoying it. So it's always, you can do it for a certain chunk of your time, but you need to consider what do you want to do for the long term. Like you mentioned, that we touched on in this episode, there's loads of other things that you can do. And if you're really talented, you don't want to waste your talent doing something that is not benefiting anybody else, because you might be able to speak on a
Right.
camera like you're doing today, or on a podcast where other people can listen to you and you'll make a difference to someone's life. So ultimately, that's
Yeah.
better than making a few bob here and there.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yeah. And unless you love data analysis,
Yes.
if that's your thing and that gets you in the flow, do
I'd
that
be
because the
interested to
world,
hear from someone who loves it for more than 5 years. I did it for
seriously,
a
reach
while, and
out.
after that, it's like, well, let me know, please. Do we've got like a
Oh
section where you
man,
can leave a voice note. I want to hear from you. Get
please,
you
you
on one
got
of
to
the
tell
future
us.
episodes. Yeah,
So yeah. Oh, so with travel hacking in America, let me just give you a perfect
yeah.
example. So I just came back from Chicago as part of this Equifax accelerator. We were in Chicago. They did not pay for it. Equifax has been amazing. They did not pay for our trip out there though. That trip would have cost me $3,036. I stayed for 6 nights. I stayed in a hotel like downtown for part of the trip. Flights for two people round trip. I live in Las Vegas, so it was Las Vegas to Chicago for two people because I brought my significant other with me. She was a real champ. She came along for the ride. Anyway, would have cost $3,000. Cost me $22.50 for all that. $22.50 because I had points. And that's what I want other people to be able to do this. Did you have a question percolating? Like I
So with
see.
that, you've got
Hmm.
points. You've done the travel. Does that include accommodation and everything, or just the travel itself?
Well, it was the flights and the hotels. So I had to pay for food, but other than that, everything was paid for.
But to get to that amount of points that you got, what sort of level of spending are we talking?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. So, there's two ways to travel hack. The basic way, which is the slow way, is to go, let me spend my card on groceries and I'll get 3x points for groceries, and then I'll spend 2x on, get 2x for gas, and in 3 years, I'll have enough to finally take that vacation I've been dreaming of. Because that's the slow way. I do not recommend anybody do it that way. The much faster way, and you can do this in America, you can't do it everywhere else, is to get a card, get the sign up bonus, which will be like 50,000, 80,000, 100,000. I just got an MX card, 150,000 points sign up bonus, right? Which is worth easily over $1,500. So that just for the sign up bonus. So you get the sign up bonus, then you get another card, and you get the sign up bonus, and you get another card, and you get the sign up bonus, and you get another card. I have 17 credit cards at the moment and over 1 million points
But
and an
touching
800
on
credit
that,
score. Hmm.
getting multiple cards, you've got more credit available to you. Does that not give you an issue if you're going to go for a mortgage someday? They'll be like, wait a minute, this person's got X amount of credit available to us. Is a higher risk than someone that's got two cards that they use regularly and pay off in full.
No, actually, it's the opposite. Credit utilization is part of your score. It's actually the second biggest part of your score. So the first biggest part everybody knows about, paying your bills on time. If you don't pay your bills on time, boom, credit takes a hit, right? Credit utilization is how much of your available credit are you using. So the lower that percentage is, the higher your score is in that area. And that's worth 30% of your score. Payments is worth 35% of your score. So you can see they're very closely related or in weight.
But the available credit you've got, so for example, you've got 17 cards. Each of them's got 1,000 credit limit. That's 17,000
Hmm.
potential money you've got access to. Will that not cause any problems if someone wants to go and buy a house and a mortgage, and then the amount they could borrow is lowered because you've got that much amount of credit available to you? Or is that different in the US?
I It might be different in the US. Well,
Okay.
so I haven't bought a house. That's not really in my list of things I want to do
Okay.
because I
Okay.
love.
So if you
So
are listening and you're thinking of buying a house, and if you're in the US, maybe do a little bit of research here. We're not financial advisors, so we can't give you advice in that way, but it's worth
right,
doing your own research just to make sure that the decisions you take are correct for you. This is just for the benefit of the listeners in case they decide to go down
yeah.
this route, or maybe even book a call with you and find out what they need to do in their specific circumstances, because everyone's different. Like you mentioned, you're not really looking to go down the house route, but someone else
Yeah.
might be. So it might be worth like a individual chat with you to make sure they're doing the right thing.
Oh, even better. So in the US, or it's probably everywhere, talk to a mortgage lender.
Yeah.
As soon as you're thinking about buying a house, don't wait until you actually have the funds to buy a house. They will help you prepare for that. So you can talk to them a year or two in advance. People think it's too early. No, reach out to a mortgage lender and start talking to them today. But I can tell you a lot of like really successful people do exactly what I'm talking about. So I don't think it affects, but you know what? Talk to a mortgage lender about that. I can certainly tell you it doesn't affect, or it has positively affected my credit score. For example, if I had a $2,000 limit and I needed to spend $1,000 a month on, like regular stuff, I'm using 50% of my total credit. That's bad. That's going to drop your score quite a bit. So if I had $100,000 limit and worth of, limit, and I'm using $1,000 a month, that's 1%. That's fantastic. That's going to make sure your score stays up. So it's kind of like a myth that getting a lot of credit cards is bad for your score. If you have one credit card, if you have no credit cards, that's actually bad for your score. If you only have one, that's also
I
bad.
wouldn't say it's bad. I think it's just an extra option you've got for money available to you. So, for example, if there's a customer who's got 17 credit cards, he's got potential of having £17,000 in debt. When he's going to pay back that mortgage, is he going to pay the cards off first or pay the mortgage off first? Will the bank get the money back? So it's like extra thought process behind that, the risk side of it. And I'm not really the risk type of person that knows the background of finances, but it's something worth thinking about. But you're definitely right. If it's something you're doing and it's working for you, just make sure you're doing it in the best way for any future that you will be deciding to do any different finances. Because I don't know how nice that would be having 17 credit cards sitting there.
No, everybody doesn't need to have 17. But I will tell you, no joke, in America, if you don't have a credit card, it is bad. Like it's not even a question. You can't get a mortgage. Two myself.
So I've got one at the bank and another one at the supplier. But
I should say it's hard.
I don't use a debit card. I use the credit card, buy everything on the credit card. My bank card pays it off in full each month. So that builds extra credit because they can see this person has that credit. They can manage the credit. They've got credit card they're borrowing money on. They're paying it back. They're not being any late payments. So it gives you an extra boost in your credit because you've got obviously this person can borrow money. He can pay it back. We're more likely to give him money. So that makes sense. I understand that bit.
So it's the credit bureaus want to see that you can juggle a lot. So they like it when you have different types of credit. That improves. There's a portion of your score called credit mix, which, I mean, we won't even get into. Like, let's just suffice to say this. I love this stuff. This is my area, right? And it's so surprising to know that the things you think would be hurting your credit it's actually, I'll give you another perfect example. If you only have 2 credit cards, it's probably, you're not getting as many points for that area as you could of your score. So in other words, the credit bureaus usually want you to have somewhere between 3 and 5 cards. Like that's a sweet spot. Okay. If you only have 1 card, they're giving you fewer. Your credit score is actually lower than it would be if you had 3 to 5 because it shows you're financially responsible because you're juggling all these cards. Don't even get me started. But I will recommend a really great. This is a book that I love a lot. Repair Your Credit Like the Pros. There's some other good books out there. This one had a lot of good stuff in there about how the credit system works. That's just one of many examples. But go do your research. You don't have to take my word for it. But there's a whole world out there of free travel to be had if you have good credit. And that's what we're going to help you do at Vacay. We're going to help you build your credit, and then we're going to help you turn that good credit into free travel. And you're not going to ruin your score. Don't worry. I would never make you do anything bad.
Excellent. That was very nice. Thank you for that, DJ. I think that's a nice point for us to call an episode today. I will put all the show notes in the description so people can get in touch with you going forwards. And we're going to actually I think we might need to set up another episode where we can talk a bit more. We need to deep dive into some of the topics we covered today. Let us know which topics you preferred and we can touch more on those in the next one, but we'll be planning another one. So I'm going to say thank you to DJ and go to my end screen now.
Thank you so much.
Okay, one sec. You were going to say something. I haven't ended yet, so you can carry on.
No, I was just saying thank you. This was so great. I really enjoy being part of the podcast, and I'm glad that you're doing this. Thank you for pursuing your passion. And so thank you.
Wicked. We were going to end, but we're going to fully end now.